It's actually like thumbing through an architecture magazine. It's fantastic. I sometimes just, I get emails from them, and I'll always click and go look, because it's like, wow, these amazing, really cool places all around the game by running this experiment totally against their DNA. They had that experimentation mindset. So again, kind of following on this execution versus ideation, which it sounds like most people are already on board with, but this is a really nice little video clip from a guy called Zeph Rank, talking about the importance of executing on your ideas and not just sitting on them.
Good morning, sports racers. It's Tuesday, June 11th, and I still feel like a poo-poo. Hungry Hippo Licks Aunt Jemima writes, are you ever going to break into song again? Are you running out of ideas? Hungry Hippo Licks Aunt Jemima, that's a good question. I run out of ideas every day. Each day I live in mortal fear that I've used up the last idea that'll ever come to me. If you don't want to run out of ideas, the best thing to do is not to execute them. You can tell yourself that you don't have the time or resources to do them right. Then they stay around in your head like brain crack. No matter how bad things get, at least you have those good ideas that you'll get to later. Some people get addicted to that brain crack, and the longer they wait, the more they convince themselves of how perfectly that idea should be executed. And they imagine it on a beautiful platter with glitter and rose petals, and everyone's clapping for them. But the bummer is most ideas kind of suck when you do them. And no matter how much you plan, you still have to do something for the first time. And you're almost guaranteed the first time you do something, it'll blow. But somebody who does something bad 3 times still has 3 times the experience of that other person who's still dreaming of all the applause. When I get an idea, even a bad one, I try to get it out into the world as fast as possible, because I certainly don't want to be addicted to brain crack.
I love that. I play that video for myself every once in a while just to remind myself not to get too comfortable with my closet full of ideas that make me feel really smart. It's about executing. It's about getting them done. And the thing I really like about that is that reminder that the first time you do anything, it's the first time you're doing it, and it's not going to be very good. And I think what the best skills that we have as UX designers, our best characteristic, our best quality, is our ability to iterate through that quickly. Because it doesn't matter who you are. Steve Jobs, doesn't matter. Leonardo da Vinci, first time you sit down and sketch something, it sucks. Because you don't know what you're doing, you're figuring it out by doing it. In fact, if it's perfect the first time you've done it, you probably wasted a lot of time because you should have been working on it sooner. Start working on it poorly, and build it better and better. And that's the skill set that we have to be able to do that. That's what we can bring to the organizations we work for, is not, I'm a brilliant designer, look at what I just came up with off the top of my head, but look how I can get to something incredibly valuable using the tools that we have to work with. Which kind of leads me to the last thing, which is thinking bigger about user experience. And I don't know if this will be thinking bigger for all of you. I think some of this is this is what I think user experience design is. But I think I hear lots of dialogue and lots of moments of conversation and read articles and things that make it much smaller than this. So I want to kind of go through this, and this is my experience. So a lot of people focus right on the core of user experience, just the screen, right? Fix this. And this is what happens when you get a brief, and I get these all the time. I got one literally last Thursday. Somebody I know from a company I used to work with, called me up and said, hey, with your new company, got this idea, we got something we need some help with. The engineers have built it, it's all done. We just need you to kind of UX it. Hate those briefs, right? We've all been there. And what do they mean? What they mean is do some UI work. How much UX can you do on something that's finished, done, decided, and there's UI work? So I immediately come back and start challenging and asking questions. You want to at least get to the next level, which is where we can even begin to think about calling it user experience, where I think about what's the interaction with this, what's the structure and flow, the information architecture, the information design, and that's where I can actually start to touch the capability of doing at least some usability. And again, this is where a lot of people stop. And I hear people in the industry with UX on their titles stopping here, saying this is what I do. There's a description of what I do. I do UI, interaction design, structure and flow of the application, that's my job, is to make that work. And I think if you stop there, you stop way short. I mean, this would be, if this were a room full of chefs, and I told you, as long as your food is edible, you're chefs. It's not enough, right? It's absolutely required, it's absolutely critical, but it's not enough. So usability, that basic sense of I just don't do stupid things like push on a door that I should pull or pull on a door that says that I should push, and that we're not, we're helping people through that, absolutely critical, but not enough. The next layer outside of that, I think, is the proposition, the why. Now again, you don't always get the chance to influence this depending on how you're brought into a project, but you should absolutely understand it. This is where the business model canvas is so important, really thinking about where does what I'm working on sit within the business? What's the objective? What's it trying to do? You know, the purpose. And a lot of people separate this out and call this product design or service design. Where does this fit within the business? Again, if you're not thinking with a service design mentality around the product that you're designing, how good can it be in that joined up world that Sudhindra described, where everything is connected? It has to be part of it. And that's where you get to usefulness. Beyond usability, we kind of move up to usefulness. And that's where, you know, Craigslist is, I love it as an example. That top site is not a site from 1998. That's a contemporary website. It's incredibly successful because it's incredibly useful. They haven't spent a lot of effort around making beautiful, amazing things around it and getting caught up in their own design. They're not going to win any awards for what they do, but they're functionally incredibly successful. And Airbnb, again, as an example, fantastic concept. They were onto the right thing so that even when they had a really crappy experience on their website, they had the room to build and change and grow from that. You can always improve your usability. But if what you have is useless, you're putting lipstick on a pig. I don't know if that term means anything here, but that's what you're doing. You're not gonna change the pig until you really focus on that part of it. And it's only when you have that focus on purpose that you can really get to persuasion, which is so important for us as user experience designers. Again, if we're not able to change behavior and move people toward the things that we want them to do, then what's our real value? I think persuasion is so central. And this is my favorite non-digital persuasion design example. Does anybody know the story of this? Okay, so a few people have seen this. So this is a urinal. They're actually in a few places now, but this started in Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, and in the Netherlands. And they had a problem, as most men's toilets do, of a mess around the urinals, because we're men and we're pigs, and we don't aim that well. And you'll see these signs up. Men will have experienced this in urinals everywhere. You see these signs up saying, you know, our aim is to keep the bathroom clean, and your aim will help, you know, imploring you to try and do a better job of aiming at the urinal and not making a mess. And this costs money. It makes it a messy experience. It's a horrible experience for everyone else, and it costs money. Somebody has to go in and constantly clean that up. Not a very nice job either. So they said, can we fix this? You know, the things that people are trying aren't working. And they came up with an interesting idea, and they said, what if we put a little tattoo of a fly right in the middle of that urinal? Now, men being men, we're hunters. So we can't help ourselves, right? So you gotta aim for the fly. And you aim for the fly, you're doing the right thing. Now the mess went down incredibly, right? Persuasion design done that way is brilliant, right? We're taking, without patronizing you, without pushing you, without even you knowing and recognizing, we're making you do something you want to do that meets with what we want to do. We can only do that if we know what we want to do. We can only do that if we're engaged at the purpose level and not at the UI and the structure level, right? And then the level outside of that, the context level, the broader context beyond the product that I'm in, and actually thinking about how what I'm doing sits alongside everything else. This is where I think you can get to the nirvana of user experience design, delight. And this is one of those words that people use a lot, and I think it's one of the most important, one of the most used, and one of the least, in my opinion, understood of the terms. I think a lot of people think about delight as the little design nuances, the little things that make you smile, the mint on the pillow at the hotel, that kind of thing. And those are delighters, those are nice. But real delight is those moments when you almost want to turn to the app and say, thank you. That was exactly what I needed. And I think Uber does both things really well. So Uber, at Halloween, I don't know if they do this every year, but at last Halloween, I noticed that all the cars turned into little bats. And so it was this cute little thing, you know, kind of playing on the Halloween tradition. And this was in Singapore. I don't know if they did it everywhere, but in Singapore, Halloween's kind of a big deal. So everyone's dressed up and thinking about ghosts and goblins, and so you get the Halloween bats. Nice little smiley thing. But what's really delightful about Uber is when you're getting out of the car and you reach for your wallet thinking I've got to pay the driver like you always do, and you go, oh, I don't have to. It's already been taken care of. It's completely seamless. Or the moment you order the taxi and you can see it on a map and you know where they're going and where they're coming to, and you can contact them, and all these things that you normally haven't been able to do when calling for a car service or for a driver. And they do it all really flawlessly and really seamlessly, and that's real delight. And as I say, you can only do that when you're working within understanding context. So I'm going to do a really quick exercise on context for the group, just to get a feel for what I mean. So all of you So look around the room and try to spot all the things you can in the room that are red. So just spot all the red things. You're going to be very popular, red enough. So we've got, just look around and see all the things you can see that are red. Okay? Now when you kind of looked around that for a bit, I want you to close your eyes. And I know there's about 17% of you that'll be too cool to close your eyes, but you'll miss out if you do. So please just close your eyes really briefly. Now with your eyes closed, I want you to remember every one of the things you can think of that were blue. Okay, you can open your eyes. I think probably two things happened when I said blue. One was you probably couldn't think of a lot of things. How many of you have trouble thinking of blue things? Yeah, quite a few of you. Now look around the room, see how much blue there is. We're in a blue-soaked room. We have more blue shirts than I can't think of a team that wears blue. Anyway, so there's a bunch of it there. But more importantly, did you feel that little shot of cortisol to your heart? That little moment of pain, a little unfair. I heard people laughing or just sighing when I said blue. Totally unfair. We do that to our customers all the time. When we take somebody, I put you in a red context and I gave you a blue task. You take somebody who you ask somebody to buy when they're not in a buying mode. You ask somebody for personal details when they haven't trusted you yet. We're working out of context. You can't build a light out of context. You have to be in context. So it's really important that we think about things in that contextual way. So we've got to be all the way at the outer surface to do that. And the final thing I would say is, thinking bigger is also just about breaking all these rules and thinking differently about these. If you are very good at UI design right now, you better start thinking bigger, because that's not going to be the end of things. With wearables, with Internet of Things, with ambient digital becoming the way that we interact with things, you better start thinking about user experience beyond the user interface. The principles, the good news is, the principles are the same. All the things that you're learning about design for interfaces are going to matter when we're less oriented to the interface. And that's where we're going. Whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years down the road, that's absolutely where we're going. So the principles still apply. So really understand the principles behind what you're doing, rather than just learning the skills by rote, and that helps you move into that innovation mindset. So again, my final kind of bit just to remind you to think value, think product, think bigger. And what I tell everyone, make amazing stuff and make stuff amazing. Thank you. Do you have time for questions, or?
Yes, let's take a couple of questions. Really enjoy the Q&A and every event. So do we have any questions for Ted?
So this is good for a consumer kind of a product. What about the B2B products?
Why would it be any different? I think there's a, so it's really interesting. I think
I share the same thought with you, like why should it be different? But when I look at B2B products, they are like literally neglected.
Absolutely. So again, think about the value proposition. So a lot of times when we're working with a B2B proposition, because you often get that, you get the captive audience argument. We don't need any UX because these people have to use this system, so it's not worth investing anything in that. Great, how much money did you spend on adoption of the last product you rolled out? How successful was it? Companies waste billions on trying to get people to use systems. They waste billions on the inefficient use of systems, mistakes that are made through systems. Xero is an accounting system for small, medium enterprises. That they're entirely user experience based accounting. It's accounting. It's it's not sexy. It's not consumer. But it's for small business. But big businesses are taking it on because there are fewer errors. And there are accountants who are moving through stuff faster. It's more efficient because the experience is better. That's the value you find for B2B. And I also think when you think of B2B sales, again, the mindset is changing around that. The B2B engagement is as much about emotion. It's as much about storytelling. As it is the product. People in B2B, people don't buy the product; they buy the rationale. It's the story. And so if you're creating something that's about connecting with B2B and it's about sales, the storytelling and those aspects are just as important, and they'll show in the numbers. And if it's about getting people to use the product, you're not going for the number of downloads for the App Store. Everybody's got it, enterprise loaded onto their machine. But how many people are using it? How many people are using it right? How much money do you spend telling people, no, that's not how you do your time tracking. It has to be done this way. And I get lots of people involved in the process that should be seamless. It's not an easy sell, but the numbers are there. And again, that's the beauty of the kind of the business model way of thinking is to say, can you show where they're losing money? Can you show where, spending an extra 50K here is gonna save you hundreds of thousands down the road when you look at how much time you're gonna spend supporting it?
The mindset is always like, they want it in like somewhat like Excel based.
Yeah.
Always like, okay, hey, it should look like Excel.
Yeah.
They don't want to experiment like new ways of looking at the same data.
Yeah, no, I think.
Even if you are innovative, even if you try to put the same data in a different container, it still
Right.
goes back to, okay, hey, can I have it in Excel?
Right. And again, some of that's about what's the audience and what are you trying to accomplish. For some audiences, Excel might be the right interface. It's often not, but it may very well be. It may be that that's actually the right way to engage, and maybe it's about making that work as well as it can. But it also may be about maybe there's a prototype A/B test. Take the Excel version and here's a prototype of a different version, and let's see how people perform. Do a contest, make it interesting. Take two people who are going to use this. One's going to use the Excel version, one's going to use this version with better information design, better model. And they're going to perform these 3 tasks. Go, see who finishes first. The one with the Excel finishes first, you may not have an argument. But if they do, then you start to convince people, you start to turn people around. Again, that's the idea, it's experiment. Be open to Excel being the right solution sometimes. And then it puts you in a place where you can say, let's let the best solution win.
So, sorry, is everyone able to, am I audible to everyone? Yes. Yeah, sure. So, I think this is a problem that usually monolithic companies face. I come from one such group, and I've been trying to drive user-centric design and new experiences to the organization, but get shot down at the senior level. So, how does one propose to go ahead with the thought of designing new experiences to the senior management, one which has been accustomed to copying, or I would put it as good, but looking at what others are doing and simply deriving stuff from that. How does one drive a new school of thought?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you also face this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, we work with companies like HSBC and
Exactly. So
Singtel.
I'm talking about a similar scale.
Yeah, and they're not known for their
Openness.
wide open acceptance of brand new exciting ideas. They talk about it, but actually doing it's another thing. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because you said what they're doing right now is they're copying what other people are doing. That may already be a leverage point. If you've got a company that's saying, well, we don't need to invest in you doing anything innovative because we're already taking the best of what's out there. Then it's part of that is saying, what's different about us? What can we how can we tweak that? I mean, you're at least moving in a direction that's beyond the Excel spreadsheet to saying maybe we're taking the best things that we can see that are out there. But I think it's all, it may just be about nuances of saying what can we do that's a little bit more, a little bit more about us than that thing that we're copying. Steal in a creative way. One of the slides that I hid because I was trying to trim this down is that a lot of people think of innovation as invention, but most of the time innovation is synthesis or extension. And so, the phone existed before Bell, the light bulb existed before Edison. Stealing ideas, stealing other people's stuff creatively, and rethinking it and reapplying it, making it optimized, making it more work for a context can actually be really innovative. And it may be that that's a place to start, because a few proof points of that, then they'll say, well, you know what? What if instead of starting here, we actually gave you more free run to try something else? You can start to change opinions a little bit that way. So some of it may just be about starting small and thinking about what can I add to this that we're taking from somewhere else. The other thing is, again, getting the executive mindset. So I had the privilege of sitting with the CEO of Singtel for almost 3/4 of his day. And I can tell you, being a CEO from that one day is about the most boring job I could ever imagine. Now, it may have been a bad day for him, but basically, the number of Gantt charts that man has to look at on a day-to-day basis, the number of identical PowerPoints that he sat through, and I couldn't even stay awake, much less listen closely enough to figure out what decision I would need to make. So that's what they're faced with on a day-to-day basis. So there's a couple of things. One is, you've got to get your messages really succinct when you're dealing with those senior executives. Where's the money? That's what they're always thinking of. That's what's going to make it or break it for me. How's it going to save money? How's it going to make money? Where's a proof point for that? Making that really simple. And then also making it different. Where's the money but done in a different way, just to get their attention, just to wake them up, and also to show that you're doing something good with it. And I think those are, again, it comes back to the storytelling. Can you wrap up what you're trying to sell as something that's more interesting, but that's also a really small nugget? If you can't say it by the time you've walked from the, from one office to the lift, you don't even get to ride the lift together. Just that short walk, you're not going to get in. So, I don't know if those are at all helpful, but that's certainly what I think about is what's, again, back to the value proposition. What's the one-liner that I can share and repeat over and over again? And what's the money that I can put with that will get the senior executive's attention? Because without those, you have to have a really, really bought-in stakeholder to go outside of that. They're playing with their side money. They're not doing the real business until you're engaged in the money.
For about 15 minutes for networking. Can you use this break time for networking, interacting with Sudhindra, Ted, or among yourself? We'll be having this hall split into two, so we would find media. He'll be talking about the importance of microcopy in UX design, and basically starting with injecting a brand personality and how using it as a platform for emotional UI UX interfaces which define the brand UI design tools. So over to you, Dan.
Yeah. Hi, Madam. So, first of all, I'm not a speaker, experienced speaker. So, my language, wherever you feel difficulty in understanding or please let me know so that I can explain it well.
From the introduction which you just heard about the topic. So primarily, initially my intention was talking about the microcopy and the micro interactions and all those kind of related topic was the initial thought, but then some fine tunes I done based on. So all of
You expect the experience to be better, right? So we have a lot of examples in the so Apple also create PCs, which is very similar. Probably